Morning, guys. David Holmes here on behalf of Homely again, just to bring you our Surviving COVID-19 series. And today we've got three great guests. I'm really, really excited about today's interview with the guys from O'Brien Real Estate. We've got Dean O'Brien, Stavros, and also Darren Hutchins, who are just going to talk us through a few things there. Just before we go on, of course, we're bringing all this information. Make sure that you hit the subscribe button down below. You'll be very, very happy that you did and get this information as it comes to hand. Welcome, guys, from O'Brien's. Thank you so much for giving us a few minutes today. I thought we just might catch up with you. You guys have a significant amount of offices. You've been an incredibly fast growing brand also across Melbourne. And we just sort of want to glean a bit of your experience and a bit of your wisdom and how you're getting through. Dean, how many offices have you currently got, and sort of how many staff would you be running at the moment?
Look, we've got 27 offices across Melbourne on both east, west and in the north at the moment. So quite busy. There is in excess of about 380 staff at the moment. So it's been quite aggressive. We sort of started off in 2010 and got to a certain level early on, 4 offices in 4 years. But the last 6 years, it's certainly grown by in excess of 20 plus offices at the moment, with significant people in sales, administration and property management.
Wow, okay. So formidable brand and hundreds of staff. So that's very significant. But what's been the biggest change that you've seen coming into COVID? And I suppose with relation to engagement with your salespeople, especially, we talked a lot about property management over some of the other interviews, and that's probably a little bit more straightforward. But when it comes to salespeople, how do we keep them engaged? How do we keep them motivated? What's been some of the keys for you?
I think it's probably our training platform, David. We've been very lucky over the journey at O'Brien Real Estate. We've had Josh Fegan as our business coach and sales coach. He certainly adapted early. We got a theory behind it. Yesterday's strategy just doesn't cut it. So we've been working on a new strategy along that line. But one of the best things that we have in our organisation is the engagement in training. You know, like we've had we have what we do is a collective Friday where we've had in excess of 100 people. We have a training session every Wednesday where we've had in excess of 100 people. We've also had directors check-ins both Tuesdays and Fridays where we're getting everyone involved. So during this COVID-19 period of where we're at, is that our engagement's probably been bigger now than it ever has before, which says to us that a lot of people are looking for information and looking for help.
Okay, so they're not just sitting at home watching Netflix, which is great. They're actually coming along. So is that a mandatory requirement that you make on your salespeople? They've got to come along?
No, it's absolutely not. It's one of the best things about our culture is our engagement in the learning process. We like to think we're an infinite learning company, not just a know-it-all company. So it's certainly not mandatory, and that's probably the most exciting thing about it is that they do want more. And it's funny you should say that, because at this point in time when people are at home and been in and out as needed and appointments and everything else like that, the more they want for learning is even been bigger. So we have noticed that there's been a drop of energy at times, like it is, because I think the fun is run out of working from home. And I think we're very tribal as human beings. So we like that people process, especially salespeople. So to actually have a strong training platform that's been driven by obviously our corporate team, but also being driven by Josh Fegan, but more importantly, it's been driven by the people. All our sales team, they're wanting more, which is great.
Yeah, okay. I say so. Enormous hunger to keep going while they're at home. What are some of the things that you're training on? How do you? I mean, the guys are working from home. We've got rules starting and then stopping over the weekend with relation to open homes and private inspections. What are you guys training on? How do we keep them? You're saying you keep them engaged, but what is it that they're engaged in?
Look, you know, we talk about our organisation and certain things that don't need to stop, like our daily directional meetings, our buyer appointments don't need to stop, servicing our clients, our customer experience needs to be greater. We've probably gone back to human first, agent second. So therefore we've looked at and gone, okay, typically the agent that just listed, just sold call, doing the mechanical stuff, but we've actually come through this process and gone back and said, all right, we're humans first, agents second, and we're there to help. So whether they're buying, selling, or just purely needing help at home through our elderly customers that have been with us before, and our clients that just need the experience of an agent, a trusted advisor at the moment. So it could be anything on financial, where to go to find that financial advice, or it could be a simple thing of, is there any renovations or mechanical stuff that we need to do? It's nothing in particular, but more about making sure that they're humans first. So we've got probably changed our language a lot and got right in with a lot more empathy and understanding to the client.
All
I
right.
think one other thing, if I can jump in, there's been some of our agents have even been out in the field dropping, parcels into elderly people and, really emphasising that human element. So, picking up groceries, dropping off toilet paper, and the like.
Darren, so that probably talks to the culture of the business. You've obviously got a very, very strong culture. We've talked to Dean about the training side of things, and people are wanting to be involved. They're wanting to further themselves, and I love that, the infinite training. So people are continually learning the entire time, which is great. Talk about the culture of the business. How do you keep your culture inside when people are working from home? They're obviously out doing some things, obviously with appropriate distancing measures in place, but dropping off, parcels and hampers to elderly. What other things are you doing to keep the guys engaged on a culture basis?
I think, David, at the end of the day, it's hard. As Dean mentioned before, it's hard to keep people motivated. But, we're a pretty social group and all our events are gone. That's one part of this whole thing. Our people love our events, but, some of our offices are doing different things. I know the guys over in Werribee have been doing their Mad Hatter Monday and their Wacky Wednesdays, and
Great.
they're trying to keep the energy up and the culture. But I think from a culture perspective, as Dean mentioned before, when you've got over 100 people joining in on a training session on a Wednesday, and then the collective Friday, it's testament to what we've been able to achieve over the years, that people still want to engage and be there and be involved. Look, it'd be nice. I know, we've tried the Zoom meetings with a Cheese and Wine Friday, and they've been good to keep the team engaged. I even had Stav on one the other night with Josh Vegan. So, we did a Good Friday one where we just had a bit of a chat and a drink. And in Josh's case, I think he had one. So that was a bit of a win. But look, it's hard. It's hard to keep the the engagement, the culture there. But I think through the training and everything else, and the engagement in those sessions has been phenomenal.
That's obviously a real key, though. If you're wanting to keep the culture and the engagement side of things there, you're constantly offering training, or you're offering sessions where the guys can engage and be involved. And if they're at home, hey, what better time to commit yourself than doing some training. Stav, just talk to us about the community involvement. You guys are very active in your community. How does that change over the last couple of months, and what does it look like moving forward?
Look, we have our O'Brien Real Estate Foundation, and there's a lot of things that we do for the foundation. We get involved with a lot of different community events. I know Dean and I last year represented the foundation at the New York Marathon, for example, and the year before we did Kokoda and things like that. Things have changed because there's a lot of the events that we can't do at the moment, like the race day that we've got coming up has to be postponed. But there's other things we're doing. We've created this thing called a Put a Smile on Your Face project at the moment, where we're delivering food to two families that are struggling. And the way we actually found out who was struggling, we contacted the local Red Cross, and we also contacted the local member to find out which families are on their list. And we're delivering food to them, like with some local takeaway shops. A couple of pizzas a day and a whole heap of stuff. That's made a big difference, but we're trying to get out there because, look, I believe the ones that are able, you and I are able, our legs work, our arms work. It's our responsibility to help those that aren't. And I think it's about making a difference. And for me, it's all about getting involved in the community. Of course, we're not involved with the schools at the moment or the sporting clubs, but we'll be back there soon, hopefully when we're all back and allowed back on the ovals, I suppose. But look, we support up to 27 different communities every year, so it's massive for us.
No, I love that. Okay. And mate, you've got the auction background there behind you.
Yeah.
It's an interesting time for auctions. How does that look at the moment? You're using different platforms, trying them out, or have you got your own platform? And are you dying to be back out in front of a crowd on the street side? Is that the ultimate?
Yeah, it's not the same as being on the grass. I love being on the grass, and I love seeing, I suppose, facial expressions, the white of people's eyes. I work really well, seeing the energy of people, and I dance to the music that people are playing. So I don't dance Greek if they're playing jazz, so to speak, but doing it this way is hard. And we've tried a lot of different platforms, and we've observed a lot of them are getting clogged up. There's a lot of data usage. They weren't built for so many people jumping on board. So we're using our own platform, which is O'Brien Live Auctions, in conjunction with Zoom. That way we can have the right people there. We're pinning them to the screen, so I'm talking directly to them. We have an operator or a controller in the background that actually, when I'm trying to get a bid out of David against, say, Darren, I can actually ping you to the screen. And Dean actually did that for me the other day. Dean's a bit of an expert on Zoom, so he was my controller, which was good. And we've learned as we've gone along, but it's working really well. I've got 8 auctions booked in for this Saturday, and I'm catching up with some of our other auctioneers to probably workshop and get some better ideas on how to do it so it's free-flowing from the customer's point of view and from the auctioneer and agent's point of view. So it's a moving target at the moment, David, as you know.
Do you see it changing long term, or do you see it just a combination of the two, or do you think there'll be such an appetite to get back out on the grass, as you say, and just experience open homes, experience auctions from the buying public, that they will they be still utilising that digital platform as much, or will they be keen to get back and do things on site as we've traditionally done them?
Look, I was working in the early 90s and mid 90s where we did a lot of in-room auctions, and we'd do 30 auctions every single Wednesday. And there's some good aspects to doing it that way, but nothing beats street theatre. Street theatre is what it's all about. I think people love it. They love coming out on a Saturday. The agents like it. It's harder work for us to go from house to house to house. That's why we have to do them within an hour at a time. But to actually do, this way we can actually do 10, 15, 20 auctions in an hour by doing in-room auctions or live auctions. I reckon we'll actually slip back into street theatre or street auctions, 100%. There will be some element of online the way we're doing it, but not many.
Okay. Guys, a couple of changes just last week with relation to private inspections and open homes. What's the directive now? How do we handle this moving forward if there's another change?
It's interesting you say that, because when they did it last Friday, it made it really difficult. And your whole weekend was actually talking about that, what happens now, where to from here. But the reality of it is, I think that we've got some pretty sane people in there doing some good decisions. Like, I think the industry for once is actually getting together. I know that there was a big group, Ray White and Harcourts and Plants and Jealous and all that for once, where all these competitors come together and say, look, if we can create a best practice and actually take that back to Consumer Affairs, I think that would be better than Consumer Affairs coming to us saying you can and you can't. But we all get in there, we have a solid governance around it. The Real Estate Institute of Victoria gets behind it and say, okay, let's go back with best practice. So let's us get on the front foot instead of sitting back and, as you say, at the 11th hour being told that the whole industry occupied properties to be shut down. So I think common sense was really good, prevailed, until it's allowed, because a lot of people that need to get into a home, not just because, whether it's renting or buying or selling, but I think we've got to probably come up with a best practice and go to them with a solution other than just probably trying to solve the problem on a long weekend or on an Easter weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. And to that end, you mentioned common sense. Mate, do we need to get back to normal? Is that the new vernacular? Is that the narrative we need to be utilising? Is it back to normal now? Easter's over, the long weekends are over, school holidays. How do we get back to normal?
I think it's just about actually doing the right thing. I think the classic example is that we've got a governance, we've got guidelines that we can do. Let's just get back and play by the rules, okay? Let's not try and find loopholes. Let's not try and extort this area. Let's do this. Let's just get back to the normal, go and service our customers, give them a customer experience that they'll remember. And I'm sure in these times, they'll remember it even more if you do a great job.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think the other thing is that our people are wanting to get back to normal. They're wanting to get back into the office, and keep their distance, social distancing and everything else. But we're finding that now more and more so that people are wanting to get back to that normal. Even in my sales meeting this morning, the guys are saying, well, where to from here? I said, we've got to get back to normal. It's business as usual. And, keep your distance, one person per 4 square metres. But, we're finding that they're all wanting to get suited back up and really get back into routine and get things going again.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, for many of us, this will be the most challenging circumstance that we will ever have worked in and potentially ever work in. So getting back to normal, this is the hardest it's ever going to be. It's just got to be, getting back to basics and getting back to routine to engage. Guys, you were very early adopters of homely.com.au, and we're enormously appreciative of your support around that. How important is the Homely offering with a low-cost portal for your buyers and for your sellers especially?
Oh, it's very important, especially seeing it's a two-horse race out there. Having a third player out there, it keeps their costs down. It gets them thinking, and if it gets traction as it has, I mean, Homely's received a lot of traction, and it's doing great things. It's actually keeping everyone else at bay. You don't want to have a monopoly out there either, and that's what it's all about. I love how they're getting involved in local communities too, with your local street reviews. Your vendors get on there, buyers get on there, agents get on there and give reviews on every suburb, every street, and so on. So there's a lot of positives, and they're actually tackling a different market as well. They're very different to the way REA and Domain work. So I actually I enjoy having a different. It's more of a social platform for real estate, which I quite like.
Best of both worlds, social as well as the real estate portal side of things. Guys, thank you so much for giving us a few minutes today. We realise you're busy getting back to normal this week, but we thank you so much for the interview today and for sharing a few insights around how you guys are getting through.
Thanks, Dave.
Thanks, Dave.
Thanks, guys.
Cheers.